Oi. We solved it.
Listen, I'm a pro, Sayce. We get there. Right, let me just see what I've got, what we got going on. Right, so listen, I got you. How are we going to do this? So how's your sound doing? So what have you got going on? Is all the mics? So do you want to kick off with the music, and then we can just, because I just want to test it. We can hear.
Well, I can just do it for the speaker here. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to open up? Do you want to open us up with a tune, or you want me to go?
I can start. I don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
Mad. This is so mad.
Right, we're live, everybody. Apologies for the delay. We had sound issues, but we're here.
Oh, I can't believe we solved it. I thought it was over.
No. Listen, I never give up. One thing about me, Sayce, I'm still here. Like, you know what I mean? I will stream by myself.
Oh my days. Anyway, yeah. How you doing?
I'm all right. How are you? Yeah, man, go play the tune, let everyone, because it's going to take everyone a minute to see that we're broadcasting. So whack it up, and then we can.
Okay. You hear that?
Oh, yeah, can you set it up? I'm going to start bogling. You see how close?
Oh my God.
We're on. We are on.
Come first. Big it. It's the reverse. You're not terribly for your dirty nigga bad mind. Next people man, it one punch out line. Enough of them are enemy, enough of them are swine. Don't serve no good purpose to mankind. Search out a muggle cause you're trash all the time. Stress, big up your chest, you ever look fine. Rock out, let them know you can whine. Perfume, mash out.
So is it 1 for 1, yeah? Are you doing the next track?
All right, let me play the next track, because I'm ready.
You let me know.
I'm ready.
You ready? Okay.
Wait, I'm ready. Let me just swap out the feet. I'm ready.
Yeah? As soon as you got.
I'm ready. Are we actually going to do any talking today?
I don't know. Just go with the vibe, right?
We're just going to go with the vibe. Yeah, we're just going to do it.
Man, I didn't think it was going to happen.
No, go do
Right, just going to tell everybody we are live. Oh no, we're live.
What's up, people?
Like a sterling chopper. You see the general, you go fit and do me proper. But anytime I come and go fit in with the matter here.
Morning.
Get the summer. Come listen, this I get man everything. Me sata. Me live the body rhythm like a joke one tire. I set in the rhythm like a ball fire. You sleep on wire, me we sleep in fire. And anytime I come and say the place.
I like it.
But away the one parameter. Somebody tell her the one parameter. And all the dog outside and them a touch it up. From over stereo box and now where they pick it up. When we're up on time and tell us I mash it up. I miss a captain and the crew and never tear it up. Say dan da da. We all of the DJ miss a cat and dan da. I go in front if me say back down to Shabba. The boy no got this over can't dan.
Sayce, can I tell you one thing?
Yeah.
What's your hard stop time? Because the way this is going, I got no.
It's Saturday. It's no work really. It's Saturday.
Right. It's Saturday vibes.
Saturday
vibes. So listen, other than the fact we had sound issues, but we got there. Look at that, literally.
I know. Mad sound Saturday. There was no sound.
Saturday. No sound. No, you know what? People don't want us to live our best life. That's what it is. They don't want us to live our best life. Listen, they don't. So listen, who's this? Right, I'm not, no word of a lie. I'm not going to lie to you because this person's going to think I'm lying. I was actually going to play Butterfly. Promise you, I'm going to see if it's in here. I was actually going to play it at some point. But then I just thought to myself, you know when you're sitting down and you're trying to do the butterfly, right? So when you're sitting down with the butterfly, you do it like this. You know the ones, because you can't standing up, you got to do the butterfly in some way in it, butterfly, you know.
Anyway.
Yeah, anyway. So, Sayce, listen, before we even get into the whole piece, can you just introduce yourself? Just before, because I'm going to start, I'm ready to just dive like 2 feet and everything, like boom, boom, boom. So let's just, tell people who you are.
All right, so Sayce Holmes-Lewis, founder and CEO of Mentivity, which is a mentoring organization. We were founded in Southeast London, so in between Peckham and Camberwell and Wharf, where I grew up. So I don't know if anyone knows the Aylesbury estate. That's where I resided and grew up for 24 years. Very difficult space and place to grow up, but the best place for me. I founded Mentivity 5 years ago. I've been working with young people since the age of 16. I'm 38 now, so it's 22 long years working with young people. So we are a mentoring organization, alternative education provision. We work with young people from the age of about 7, 8 up to about 21 now, just trying to educate them informally, support them along the journey of life, but provide employability going forwards and career opportunities linked to their passions.
And how many young people have you supported?
In my life, or
just through your Mentivity company? How many?
Over the last 5 years, definitely about 4,000 to 5,000 young people. Okay. Yeah, so we do a lot of group work, but we do a lot of one-to-one work as well, working with parents and families. We're also educating teachers how to improve their educational offer. So we do a lot. It's not always well received, but the young people, it's always well received. A lot of schools feel threatened by what we bring in terms of our alternative angle of education, because we understand it. You know, we grew up in Southeast London. We know how the system works against us, and we just really focused on trying to create an offer which was inclusive and allowed young people to work in collaboration with adults, because we don't give enough time to young people. We really don't. Right. So we've got to build trust.
Right. So in terms of just context in this conversation, so when you and I connected, right, and then we started getting into it, and I was like, no, Sayce, we're not going to do it today. No, and save it. So I'm going to come to you for this, because everyone's going to know my angle, but you used the word when we were talking, and you said rehabilitation. Yeah.
It's a massive topic for me right now in terms of personal rehabilitation, because the world is very, very hard, and has been for me, especially as a black man in Southeast London, overcoming many obstacles. But rehabilitation, I think we have a collective responsibility to rehabilitate ourselves, because I don't think we've actually done it. We've had periods in history, especially in the 60s and 70s, where it was about love and rehabilitation. But in the 80s, with the kind of pandemic around drugs and how that's really kind of devastated our communities globally, we haven't really rehabilitated, and so we're kind of in the same kind of issues and same space. You know what I mean? We've made a little bit of progress, but we're not free. We're not free. We're still under attack in every walk of society, really.
And so that's just for everybody else who contacts, because I know I've been like a live queen this week. I think this is my 4th time. Not all of it. I've been a live queen. So I was always thinking this morning about how I was just going to context why I do have some of these conversations, but why I'm like going, because I did one with Kay Rufe a few weeks ago, and we just we were diving into the depths of the ocean, as we were talking about this. So there's 2 aspects of Shireen Daniels, right? So there's the company that I run, HRE Wired, and obviously that helps organizations get started on their anti-racism journey, right? So that's all fine.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I had to say to myself with this work that I do is, if I only put all of my energy into helping, let's be honest, white leadership teams get the program, how can I look myself in the mirror and properly say I'm part of the solution if I'm not also focused on Black liberation? So what I said to and this is me, so I'm not judging anybody. There's lots of people who do work in this space. That's on you. That's for you to, but for me, myself, I've been silent for 17 years, so I can't say I've ever been part of the solution.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So I recognize in myself that there was a massive fear in fighting for people who looked like me. There was a fear about speaking up. There was a reluctance to challenge white people.
Yeah.
Right? And so because of that, I spent more time wanting to assimilate things. I spent more time trying to integrate. I spent more time trying to make sure that I fixed up the way that I spoke around white people. But then when I come home, and as you can hear, like, I'm a dancehall queen, right? So I'm, you know, as I said, I left work and I'm in the club. You know, that was one of them ones. I'm always one of them ones, right? So I've spent my childhood from 8 years old and my adulthood being in white spaces. And the impact of me being in white spaces is I prioritized white people, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? I'm not like it's not like I sat here consciously and went, oh yeah. But actually, in my behavior, what I engaged in and what I didn't engage with was built around white acceptance.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm always ready. I always have to take it. So when everyone else is skipping over the surface, like, oh, I'm like, listen, you're lying. Right, we've all been there. And I tell you the reason why I know we're lying, and we can start to get into this, because there still isn't enough Black people pushing for Black people.
Yes.
So that's why I say that. So that's why I say I can say, like, we're lying collectively, like I did, right? And so when we now fast forward to this, and obviously I've got everyone reaching out, they want this, they want me to do, they want me to do, they want me to do. And one of my criteria, when I talk to people, I was like, listen, talk to me about what you're doing for Black liberation. I'm not interested in how you make your money from whoever, but what are you doing to make sure that in your way, you're trying to make sure that we're not repeating the same cycle? You know, and does that make sense?
Yeah, it fully makes sense. And everything that you said resonates with me, because I grew up in South and near Elephant and Castle, which is close to Bermondsey. It was white working class, predominantly on the Elmsbury estate. However, there was a eclectic mix of diverse backgrounds, you know, but everything I saw when I was a young person was white, and white was right. So it was only around the age of 8 that I really experienced racism and realized I was different from other people and how I was perceived. And for about 6 years, between 8 and 14, I had an identity crisis because I didn't actually want to be Black, because I realized that being Black was going to be hard. And when you're a child, you do what's easiest. So you look for the easy way out. That's what children do. And some people never overcome that, and they carry that cycle into adulthood. But I realized for 6 years that I was supposed to be inferior, and actually felt inferior, because that's how society made me feel. And that was further compounded by my dad then leaving the household, and then I kind of became the man of the household in some degree. And it was pressure. The pressure of being a young Black boy on the Aylesbury estate was hard, and the oldest of 4, later to be 7 children. Everyone was telling me, you got to do this, you got to do that. I'm just trying to figure out life. Why have I got to look after these guys, my siblings?
Right.
Right. I'm trying to figure out where I can go without the support of the consistent support of my dad, and all the ills of the society and community, which are trying to keep me down and kind of produce that self-fulfilling negative prophecy. So I totally understand that, and going to different realms of life, playing professional football, playing semi-professional football, very white, male, dominated environments, you were made to feel inferior, because that's what, oppression and racism does. And you start to actually question yourself, and you actually create this reality of yourself, which is actually fake. And I've been there so many times, and now I'm not scared about that, because I know who I am. Not that I didn't know who I was when I was younger, because I got very constant spiritual family, but it was that constant battle between authentic me and society me, what I put outside. And it was difficult, because you get these micro and macro aggressions in so many different ways, in terms of, well, yeah, you could be a football player, yeah, definitely, but can't be a surgeon. Yeah, you're going to, if you continue like this, you're going to end up in prison. There's always that straight jump, from misbehaving in school to, oh yeah, well, you're going to end up being on the streets and selling drugs and being in prison, or worse, dead. And that was it. It was just two extremes in the spectrum. What about the in-between?
What about the in-between? And one of the, just hearing you talk, and it's interesting, isn't it, about this age of 8, right? So because for me, I remember moving to when my mum left my dad. So I'm the oldest of 4, still 4. So you had your extra siblings. I just still had 4, right? So there's something about that age. And says, up until that point, I was never conscious of the colour of my skin meaning something. Do you know what I mean? So, but when I went to an all-white primary school, where the head teacher had to consider whether or not he was ready to take black kids, because there weren't no black kids in Crewe, which is where I grew up in the north.
Crazy.
So the first time I remember going to sleep wishing that when I woke up, I had blonde hair and blue eyes and white skin.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, and what's really interesting, it wasn't because I had no opinions on the value of the colour of my skin from that perspective, but because of how I was treated because of the colour of my skin, I'm thinking, well, the only way I can get over that is if I'm white. And then I will have an easier time in the playground.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and I've spoken about this before, and then when I got into my teens, because all my family is, you know, my extended cousins and stuff were in London, South London, Brixton was, you know, kind of Croydon, all them areas.
Yeah.
I wasn't accepted either because my accent was too northern. Therefore, I sounded white. So I'm coming. Imagine me now coming. I'm ready to learn Bogle because I was a dancer. Do you know what I mean? So I'm ready to come and learn Bogle. I'm ready to go. So, you know, this was back in the days, right? I know everyone's going to laugh at this. When bleached jeans was a thing, the pineapple hairstyle, and do you remember the yardie suit? I don't know if you remember the yardie suit. Do you remember the yardie suit?
Click suit. Click suits. Come on. You got to have your Clarks and your click suits and your diamond socks. You know, that's the Jamaican culture. You see that, like you just said, and I just want to pick up on that point where you weren't accepted by your own because you had a different accent. So then who are you supposed to be? Who am I supposed to be?
This is what I'm saying to you. But what's really interesting is, though, as you navigate the professional world now, so we continue on, and I even have this debate and conversation now, even with the stuff that I do over the last few months, is, you know, a lot of people want to say to me, yeah, but, you know, they're not ready yet to hear this type of conversation. When they say they, I mean, like, what? Do you mean, like, white people? And they go, oh, yeah, that's what I mean. This is from black people. Right? And now getting into the kind of the mobilising of our community, you know, if I think about some of the black people that I know now, and I think about who's engaged with the subject, it's not necessarily about me, but who's engaged with the subject, so I can count them on one hand.
Yeah.
And so my thing is, and this is where, you know, I'll be honest to everybody. I have my days when I'm like, yeah. And I have my days where I feel pissed off. Because I'm just thinking, you know, we have a internalized racism that means our behavior is conditioned, which means we don't push back hard enough.
Yeah.
The other aspect of internalized racism is we also don't overtly support, really, people who look like us, because in the white world that doesn't give us brownie points, and in the white world that makes people feel uncomfortable. We see it play out every day we see that play out. Why you know, white women, we have these issues too, you know, you have all of this. Why are you always referring to black people as black queens and black kings? Why are you using global majority? Why are you talking about that? And what happens is, some people will go, oh shit, you know, it's making people uncomfortable, so I better zip it up, I better quiet, I better stop. Other people like me is going, let me just tell you global majority one more time. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? You know, one more time. Come on, say it with me, everybody. Say it with me. What? That's because I've been on a journey.
Yeah.
Right? So my thing is, but I've been on a journey, but I recognise that I didn't wake up like this. And I think that's the difference, because I do think there's a lot of incredible black people. And I don't mean from the society label of successful. I just mean people who are doing things for the community, making an impact, you know, the unsung heroes that we would never know about, right?
So many.
But sometimes we forget to tell people where we started. And sometimes we forget to say to people, I've been there. I'm still there. I've got to work on the conditioning every single day, right? So when everyone thinks that I'm like lighting fires on LinkedIn because they see me like boom, boom, she's lighting up fire, boom, throw it in. Let me just talk to you one more time. But what people don't realize is every time I've got to check and balance in my mind and going, who's going to be switched off by this?
Yeah.
That's old world thinking. That's pre-2020 thinking. Who's going to be switched off by this? Is it worth it? Do I just give them a break, right? But then I have to say to myself, but when we're victims of racism, we don't get a break.
Exactly, we never got a break. And when we try to create our own break, what happens to those people that are at the forefront of this revolutionary kind of act? They disappear, they go. And this is where the fear comes from. And I wanted to touch on this when you spoke about the fear. The fear comes from what we've seen, the examples made. And I've got one here, one such example. Patrice Lumumba. Not enough people know about this story. And it is proven, you know, that the CIA and UK and Belgium conspired to have him killed. But the reason why we're fearful is because we've seen what happens to people that speak up. And it's always the reaction that we get. And it's been historically the reaction that we get, especially here in Britain, with our experience. Oh, no, it doesn't exist. Oh, that was in the 70s, mate. Combat 18, nah, mate. That was the 90s.
Listen, I got 2 best mates in the gym. They're black. Listen, we've been Iron Apple together. We've been Ibiza. Listen.
Yeah, it's unreal. And it, like you said, the checks and balances, you always got to think about everything in a much more deeper, you know, from a deeper aspect, deeper meaning, because you got to think, right, I'm going to go to the shop today. What am I going to wear? What route am I going to drive? Okay, if I see a police officer, they might stop me. Like, this happens all the time. How am I going to wear my hair? Like, I would never, when I was working for, you know, Southwark Council and other places, and I wouldn't have grown my hair because it looked unprofessional.
Sayce, look at my red hair.
I know. Statement.
Do you think I'm walking into the car? No, because I couldn't even take the smoke from that. But that's part of the problem, isn't it? I just think I don't want anybody to comment on my hair one more time because they already can't cope when I used to have extensions in my hair. No, they can't cope. So how am I going to turn up like this? They can't cope with that afro. So how am I going to, you know, you just think it's not worth it. But in that acceptance, you multiply that every single time. You multiply that, and then the compound effect of that is we end up being disempowered. I felt disempowered. If anyone was to listen to some of my earlier videos last year, the way I was talking, like, you know, I can criticize myself because I do, as I said, I'm work in progress. Every day is like work in progress. But
we all are.
But the way I was talking, you might as well have dropped me in the 18th century and stuck me on a plantation field because that's how I felt, Sayce. Yeah. That is how I felt.
Yeah.
You know?
I understand.
So when I have this sort of conversation, I have conversations with people all over the shop, right? But this sort of conversation it's important to me that within the Black community, we stop censoring whiteness. It's important for me that we start talking about how the journey that we've gone through, like you and I've just shared, you know, we don't know each other from Adam. We were connected, we got a mutual friend in common, so we don't know. But the parallels in our story, how many people are listening to this and seeing the parallels? But how often do we talk about this? Not the coming brand new with the speakerphone and everyone's like, yeah, or I've never had to conform. That doesn't help anybody.
No, it doesn't. I mean, what you just said, there's so much synergy in our stories. And I remember I've got a group of prominent Black men that are doing work in the community. And, you know, we've called ourselves the guidance counselors. We have a WhatsApp group and, you know, we've got people from, you know, we've got Amani Simpson, we've got Justin Finlayson from United Borders. We've got some great people in there. And we had a meeting before pre-COVID. We had a meeting at Traxton Records, Usain Bolt's restaurant, and we had food and we were just catching up, India catch up, and then we just started telling our stories. And everyone had their time and everyone listened. The amount of synergy in our experiences was unreal. And what I realized is that for us to all have a similar experience means that the system has guided us towards the same destination. Literally. Right. You can go. I know
well, no, because we're gonna get into that. But I'm just gonna play. I'm gonna play a tune because we are because I'm ready. I'm gonna play. Listen.
Let's see what you got. One for one.
We're gonna do one for one. Okay. Right. Do you know what? Right. I'm laughing because it's such an old school tune. People are either gonna love it or they're gonna cuss because it's really old school. But I'm gonna play it anyway.
That's my name, and never start presenting an absent. This is the name, my name. Gorilla Tony Rebel, man.
Somebody call my name. You remember this shit?
Yes. Oh my God.
Somebody call my name.
I made me answer to me name. I'm gonna answer to it, and everybody just I wonder when they go answer when they speculate. Just let me tell you, this is some sweet melody and some conscious spirit. A long time in the music. I walk down the room and then stop practice every hour, every second and every minute. Just for the mission to be accomplished. Somebody call my name. I think there's a big hush. I made me answer to me.
What you got for me, Sayce? What you got for me? What you got? What I say, old school?
Listen, I'm not gonna go. I was gonna go even older than that, but we'll get to the conscious reggae a little bit later.
Go do it.
The energy, you know, our energy can never done. So that's the song, you know.
The symbol of S. That is an all girls chest. Remember,
Can't done.
you can't done.
Nah.
If you keep on X-rated,
I made the woman excited.
make the girls get haunted.
Ready?
Who
Step.
gonna never say?
Oh, say that be man can't do Bring up memories.
Hey. All right. Oh, you can't done.
This is too much. Can we just do this till like 3 o'clock in the afternoon? This is enough jokes.
We should do this later on tonight.
I'm telling you. Do you know how, listen, but in all seriousness, when I was doing this playlist, do you know, I was like, yeah. Then I was like 2 minutes into the tune, I was like, I can't play this tune. I was like, no, we can't play that. No, I forgot about the lyrics. No, next.
It's us, it's our music. We were listening to this as kids, and we're all right today.
You know what I mean? Before we even knew what these lyrics meant,
Trust
when
me.
they're bugling, butterfly and doing all of that, we didn't know.
Trust me, they're just skinning out and that. Terrible.
The girl saw Trisha put, what? Listen.
You know. This is great.
This is a show I said, can done. Yes.
Yes, Siobhan.
Yes, Daya. So listen, I just want to, so we're going to take a little bit of a rewind because I just want you to say again, the parallels in our experiences.
Yeah.
That is what tells you that the system is working and it's directing us to a certain point. This is the bit that people fail to understand.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't understand this. So I'm not cussing. I'm saying I didn't understand that because I'm just thinking, well, my lack of, what's the word? It's not even support, because support is such a rubbish word, but my lack of stepping out into my truth and to who I am and representing myself the way I want to.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that was about me. Full stop. You know what I mean? That's about me not wanting to, that's not my vibe, that's not my thing. I want to play the corporate game. I want to do this game, not doing that. Never, ever, ever thinking, because I would like to think from an ego perspective, I'm above conditioning. You start talking to me about conditioning and how, you know, and I'm going to tell you, no, I haven't been that person. No, don't be silly. Don't be silly, you know, because look, I've got this, I've done this. It's only when you start to dig into the impact of racism as it affects us. And this is where you can see the difference between people who are doing the real work and those who are just like still here, because that's when you start to go, oh my God, it's me.
There's so many things I want to touch on there, because what you said about the conditioning and leading to the same points in terms of negative decisions or options, what we've got to understand is that the conditioning that has been, you know, long before my grandparents came here, the conditioning from our enslaved people, and it's not slaves because we were enslaved,
right?
It's important. You've got to understand that being collectivized as a people, that's been broken so many times. So when you are successful, what do? You get out straight away because you want to escape that reality. That's what you want to do. You're doing that in terms of your career. You're doing that in terms of psychologically. That I've got to distance myself from what this is, but I could only progress because of capitalism, because of this system, not because you have really determined that I'm going to make this difference. Like you've done, obviously put the effort in, but it's kind of you've been allowed to do it. Right. So then why are we not saying, okay, I'm out, I'm bringing you with me. When you come, you bring someone else with you. This is where we have been broken as a people and so talk about rehabilitation, because we are more fearful of bringing one of our own through rather than being accepted into a system that doesn't want to accept us.
Right. And that's the greatest fallacy. It's the greatest fallacy with all of this. And I think that's where, you know, like because I know I get asked this question a lot, is like, how is it that in different guises, right, I can bring the level of heat? Like, how can I be on 5 every day, right, instead of 0 or 1, right? How can I do that? And it's because I don't want Black people to have to break down and go through their trauma and feel like they're broken individuals, because I felt broken at the time I started talking out. Sayce, I look broken. I felt it. I just thought my whole life was going to come. I've got 2 kids. I've got a partner that I adore and adores me and supports me and all of that stuff. It wasn't about that.
Yeah.
It was about how I felt about myself. And then so part of me was thinking, who is this person that has been on this treadmill for my whole life and has seen the experience, have experienced things and seen my mom experience things, my friends experience things, see things play out. And how is it I've stayed passive? How is it that I've never questioned that? How is it that I don't talk about that? Why am I putting so much energy into pleasing people that couldn't give a damn about me? I'm not saying, you know what I'm saying when I say that, but you know what I mean? How did my life get so skewed?
Yeah.
That the decisions I made was through acceptance and wanting to be accepted, not conscious choice. You know, and so when I say to people who look at me and what I'm doing now, and don't get me wrong, I'm having the time of my life because I know I'm making an impact, but I also know this is Shireen D. Daniels.
Yeah.
This is me. You know, me and my hoodie, listening out to the tunes, me being able to do these high-level conversations and keep it relatable for everybody. Me being able to talk about what I call my white cousins, cousins who are the allies who are supporting, but don't take away from the fact that I'm here for Black people.
Yeah.
And by extension, my global majority brothers and sisters. Because if I keep putting my energy into white people over there, what about all of these people, to your point, Sayce, that we ain't bringing with us? How does that work if we're only focused about ourselves? And when I say that, I'm not attacking anybody else. I'm saying to you, this is what I said to myself.
Yeah.
This is all the stuff that every day when I'm umming and ahhing, do I not do? How do I do? You know, Leanne and I, a friend of mine, we're doing a webinar next week for majority women, global majority women, but, focused on the Black thing about seizing opportunity. And that's my way of being able to make sure that I'm not all right, Jack. So if there's things that I'm learning, headspace, things like that's, I only get bonus points, Sayce, if I can bring other people with me. I'm in minus if I just do for myself. I'm in minus. Yeah. So I've got to start building the credits in the bank. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
For sure.
Start building.
We do. And this is one of the reasons why I set up Mentivity, because there was a real issue around organizations that were led by the very same people you're trying to connect with and trying to support. Like, I've worked for big charities, I worked for a charity for 9 years, and for 7.5 of those years, I worked part-time as a coach at 10 hours a week, and it was a club that I played for as a kid. But it joined with a massive charity and it became something different. But my love for the young people didn't allow me to leave. So I gave 9 years to someone else's dream. And the thing is about with charities as well is that when they're coming into your communities, they're actually making money off of your plight. They're coming in and they're saying, look at these deprived children on the elderly estate. We've got to help them through football or through this or through that. But you're not from the community. So how do you know what we need? Who have you asked? and you're making money off of that very same plight. So that comes back to that whole white savior approach. And that's why when I set up Mentivity, it wasn't a charity. I refused. I said, it's going to be a limited company, so people take me seriously. You're going to buy into this business, this organization.
So, Sayce, let me just add in. So, what you're seeing in the charity world, right, is what I see in this space.
Yeah.
Yes. So, this space of the world that I live in, which is, you know, organizations, and I'm talking to the PC as well. What I'm also very aware of is that there are a lot of non-Black people who are also in this space.
Yes.
Who are also using the plight of Black people to make pounds, shillings, and pence. Who are also not doing anything about Black liberation, right? So they're looking good and looking pretty, knowing that they have also, whether it's intentionally or unintentionally, perpetuated the very problem that said organisations are now paying you to solve, but they're paying you to solve, knowing that the money is going from white hand to white hand. And we understand the disparity in pay between Black people. We understand the economic wealth gap. So when I'm challenging hard and I'm challenging to organisations about the 360 approach that you do, right down to where you invest your money, where you spend your money with suppliers and contracts, because if you make those unconscious decisions, you're perpetuating a cycle that means we as Black people can never catch up. And it's not that we can't catch up because we're not good enough and we don't have the skills. It's that you are prioritising people who look like you, right down to the dismantling of racism. You are putting your money in white people's hands to solve a problem that you have benefited from. How does that make sense?
It doesn't. And because we haven't called it out consistently, this is why we're there. This is why when, like you said, going into these corporations and I'm giving talks and I'm just giving the real experience. Just as I'm talking now, talking about my journey from the Osprey estate, talking about playing professional football, talking about that falling apart and not having anything to fall back on, including education, because I didn't really like education because it wasn't stimulating to me. But what I realized is that once I had to make the change and start to follow my passion, then that's a way I can make a difference. So we then got to then be who we are, our authentic selves, and speak about these things and these experiences, regardless of what the response is going to be. Right. And that means saying, right now, you think 2 years ago, I thought I would be in this space doing what I'm doing now. Like, I didn't think that.
I'm rising down the place. Like, listen, like part of my pettiness, like my petty in my spirit, like, you know, I'm just like, but it absolutely makes the difference. And what's really interesting, and this is where I hope, you know, everyone has their unique skills and strengths, right? So there's a lot of things that I can't do. As much as I like to kid myself, I can't do. I can do this, right? So clearly this is what I'm good at. But what's really interesting, this has been an interesting observation for me, and even my partner, who is white and Estonian. Do you know what I mean? So when I started this, he was one of the ones that said, well, like, how much of this is a real issue, like big time? And now he's going to me, well, you better take the money from the white man. And I'm like, but you're white. You know what I mean? So it's the way he said it, like just like that, he was like, well, baby, it's your time now, you know. Yeah. Really interesting, you take on the journey. But I forgot what I was trying to say with that point now, because I got so distracted with my partner, like with the two P's. But what's really interesting, yes, I remember what I was going to say now, is I have not watered down my truth, Sayce. I have not watered down my perspectives, my opinions. I've called stuff out that nobody else want to talk about. And the very people that I thought I was going to repel are still here, are still listening, are still learning. I'm not saying it's everybody.
Yeah.
But I'm playing my part in helping them on a journey, which is, you know, that's cool and that's a tick, and I'm always supportive of that. But more so, I'm helping other global majority individuals, other minoritized individuals, for whatever else it is, recognize that if more of us stepped into this power that we have, we are not so easy to control. We are not so accepting of the way things are. And we wouldn't have to bat an eyelid about whether or not I like Sayce's post when he talks about X, or I engage with Shireen when she's talking about Y, or I go and offer help to whoever over here is doing this, or I go and donate.
Yeah.
Because there's not people, we ain't good with the whole supporting of people who are trying to help us. We'd rather put our money in Jeff and Amazon, Shireen Daniels. I got to fix up, you know. I'd rather be putting my money, I don't anymore, but I'd rather be putting in my 50 million pairs of Nike limited edition high tops, right? Rather than spending a little piece of time and digging out for the black-owned designer who's designing better trainers and not treating their black people like proverbial. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that's got to be a mindset thing.
Definitely a mindset.
We've got to practice it.
We have got to practice it, but we also got to action it. You know what I mean? We've got to action it. And this is where the confidence it comes in, because once you make that step, that I've been self-employed 5 years. Once you make that step, you're proving to yourself that, wow, I can overcome this. And small victories. And like you said, it's hard because I never thought you have a consultancy and right, I'm going to be a cultural consultant. I'm going to go into this business. I'm going to say, right, this is where your problem is. But by having more of us there in these spaces, we can then force accountability. This is the problem what we've had. Accountability is the key thing, because there are systems in place. There's a system. So why not utilize that very same system and exploit that system for your individual and collective gain? And this is where I'm saying to people now, it's our time now. You can go and get paid as a cultural consultant. Why are they paying someone that doesn't look like you to talk about the black experience or to solve? And that's what it's about now. I have all the confidence in the world. Like, I am obviously doing the stuff with the Met Police, which we'll touch on. But now
yeah, we can come to that.
I've got the confidence because I know, 1, who I am. 2, I'm continuously educating myself. 3, I don't look at the world that I did the way that I did 2 years ago. You know, like you said, I gave so much of me, and the system got to a point where I just had no energy. I gave up 2 years ago, and the only place was up because I was at rock bottom. What I realize now is that I've allowed myself to get to this. I've allowed myself to be a victim because I didn't say the things to myself that was actually honest and difficult for me to actually comprehend. And once you have that honest truth and you're understanding that honest reality, then you can just navigate. Because I was lying to myself. So many of us are lying to ourselves because we think that we're okay. This existence is okay. This is an existence. We're not living.
Or we think, you know what, right now, and again, I'm not saying this from judgment, because I'm replaying all the things, all the excuses, the reasons that I said in my head. And I was like, you know what, right about now, I just need to focus on I've got mortgage to pay. You know, I've got people wanting to stab me in the back and wanting to, you know, so I just need to get my head down and I just need to, you know, survive through. And what we don't realize is the system has created that survival mode, right? Because if you're in survival mode, guess what? You don't have time and energy to do the things that you're meant to do that will help you not be in that position and other people who look like you not be in that position because you're too tired. You just want to come home and sit down and shut the door because you don't want to deal with the racist BS that's happening outside. You don't want to deal with the boss who calls you difficult. You don't want to deal with the fact that you're still sat there waiting for promotion and then everybody else is got you get to the point where you just think, what am I doing it for? But just let me, just one more time, let me wait. And that cycle has played itself out over the last 400 years. And so it's not just about, white people haven't changed.
No.
White supremacy hasn't changed. White fragility hasn't changed. It is the same thing that Martin Luther King, the same thing that the people would have dealt with in the 1920s, the same thing in the US, here in Europe, in Australia, with Indigenous people, all of these examples. But also what has not changed is we have not stepped into our power. Hard enough. Do you understand? That's my personal view. I know some people go, no, that's not the case, but that's how I feel.
I agree with you, and just to add to what you're saying is that we haven't done it from a strategic standpoint.
Yes, I agree.
The problem that we have is that we don't have an identity. What is our collective identity? Because there's so many different fragments to being Black, African American, Caribbean American, Black British. You know, there's so many different divisions. We don't have a nation state. We don't have a flag.
Yeah.
We don't have a military behind us. We don't have anything that anyone's going to take us seriously. This is like me going to a meeting at Goldman Sachs and not being prepared and going in my hood and just being like, you know, I'm coming to the table. Yeah, you know what, you man, I need 50 grand for Mentivity. You know what I'm saying? So we're coming with our immature approach to a adult problem, which is white supremacy, which hasn't changed, it's evolved.
Yeah.
I was watching on YouTube, I go into the YouTube wormholes, and John Henrik Clark, and he says, we have ourselves to blame because we are soulful and accommodating by nature, and we've accommodated this system pretty much.
Because we've been turning the other cheek for so long, Sayce. We don't know how to get our necks back on straight.
What cheek? They're done. They're slapped off. But when you said, when Christopher Columbus reached the Americas, what did we do? We invited them to dinner. When they reached Australia, the Aborigines, we invited them to dinner. So that shows you the standpoint of a civilization, of a society. If you come to my house, and you knock my door, and I didn't expect you there, and I'm like, oh, what's going on? Yeah, man, come in, man. Come get some dinner. That shows you who I am as a person. That shows you what my culture is. We are always trying to invite them to dinner and involve them in what we need to solve. We cannot solve it with them, because they are part of the problem, like you said. So it's not saying everyone. I don't like to generalize. Say everyone.
Do you know what, Sayce? I've gone beyond that because that's like, it's the equivalent for me of primary school when people have to go, not all white people are, this is not that conversation. Again, because we are decentering whiteness. This isn't about that. Do you know what I mean? And I always, when people go, oh yeah, but aren't you worried about, somebody said to me, aren't you worried about upsetting white people? And I'm like, to what degree? Because, well, look at what we're dealing with already. So tell me how it's going to be any worse than what, again, that whole mentality, aren't you worried about accepting white people? That is reinforcing the white supremacy in whiteness. And what's also really interesting, just on your point about no sovereign flag and all of that stuff, we are one of the only people who have a label according to the colour of our skin and a reluctance to tie us to the countries that we're from. So if you're in China, you're called Chinese. Right? If you're from India, you're called Indian. If you're from Spain, you're Spanish. If you're from France, you're French. But if you're black, you are black.
Yeah, it's a subgroup. That subgroup is really one of the issues, because language, as I said, is so important. What is black? Black isn't really a colour.
Right, we're going to stop there. Play me a tune before we come, because we got to talk about Met Police. We got to talk about this. We're going to get there. You're going to go. Let me see what you coming with, because I think we've taken. Everyone's got a headache. Come here. Get on this line.
You ready?
I'm ready.
You must know this song.
All right, that's what you're coming with. I'm ready.
Yeah.
I don't even know if my mum's listening to this, but my mum is like, oh, this is proper music.
Sunday music.
Do you know what I mean? She's going to be like, oh, finally. Look how many slack music she keeps playing. Do you know what I mean?
Speak the truth. Big tune. Every Sunday, you know. We don't need to.
He's the first one who discovered Jamaica. I say that. What about the Arawak Indians? And the few black man who around here before him.
Listen.
The Indians,
let me come with a tune now, yeah? Let me come with a tune. Let me
used to play in the yard, you know.
Let me come with a tune. One of my favorites. I'm so extra. Rather than just play the tune, I'm just like sitting on it, looking at it like. You know, I want everyone to be ready. You and I sharing the night. Listen, I think I'm gonna play this whole tune because this is tune.
You're looking kind of lonely, girl. Would you like someone you can talk to?
Only two, and if you don't mind, then I sit down here beside you. And if I seem to come on too strong, that you will understand.
How you going on screen here?
It's so as lonely as I am. Would you mind sharing the night together? Sharing the night together. Now would you like to dance with me and hold me? You know I wanna be holding you. Cause I like feeling like I do, and I can see it in your eyes. You're liking it too.
When Amory's writing in capitals, because Amory's not playing, Amory's like, listen.
Oh my days. Wedding reception. Yes, Dave, you know.
Yes, Dave. Yes. Yes.
Know.
You know them ones. So listen, where you left off, you were saying black is not.
Well, it's a construct, isn't it? Obviously, white and black is a construct, which was after, I think, Jim Crow. I can't remember from, the new Jim Crow, but it was a construct. There was none of that, but they had to create a division between poor people because they were uniting against the ruling classes. And you had this here, but more so in the States. But white is an invented term. Black is an invented term. You're indigenous to the world. So when you talk about African Americans, and this is the key thing, is that why language is so important. An African American is African before they're American, whether they've been born there or not. So when you were talking about all the atrocities and all the things that have been happening to African Americans, the Constitution does actually is not relevant to you because you're not American. You're not an American citizen. You look at the Constitution, all men are created equal, etc.
Yes.
It doesn't include black people. So when all these things are going and happening, when we're not getting justice, it's because the system, the Constitution, is not backing us because we are not human. That's how the Constitution sees us. 3/5 of a human being, 2/5 of a human being, whatever it may be. So when you're a resident of a country and you haven't even got your citizenship, really, technically, you're not an American African because when all the Europeans came over, they were American Italians or Italians, American Jewish, American Polish. So they are American citizens. So that's why the Constitution, applies to them. That's why they can get justice, why they can do certain things. When you look at the Native Americans and the Native Indians, they proved their lineage and proved that they were indigenous to the land. This is why they got their reserves and etc. and got their money, which has been a problem because obviously now they've got money and no way to do things. But if we can prove our lineage, then you can get reparations. But we can't, because you can't. Then if you don't have a nation state behind you, you can't go to the Court for Human Rights, the World Court, and say, right, I want reparations. They're going to be like, well, what country is backing you? Who recognizes your sovereign state? Or where you
not only that, Sayce, as we know with the conversations about reparations here in the UK, forget the US, right?
Yeah.
Look at Windrush, okay, and how all of that stuff with Windrush. Do you know how many times I've heard people say, yeah, but this white people, just to be clear, say to me, yeah, but don't you think there comes a point when, as black people, you just need to stop asking for money? Like, Sayce, if I had a £1 coin, my house done paid off, right? that is how. So again, it is this racialized hierarchy that we sit in, and even when you can prove your lineage, look at the indigenous people of Australia. I'm coming there next. You know what I mean? I'm my Disturbing the Peace tour is going over to Australia soon. I've been asked multiple times. I'm going. We're hooking it up. So that's coming. I'm bringing everybody. I'm coming. Like, I'm coming. In the US, they're all right now. But again, even when it's this whole thing about until it is in the development terms, like in like third sector terms, they call it the white gaze, right? Nothing is of value until the white gaze has denoted that it's now this. Christopher Columbus came into a country that was already done established with people living there.
Yeah.
But we are taught in history that he discovered a country that already have people there, because it only becomes something when it's a white person that puts the label on it. And therefore, it is, look at the entertainment industry, where Black people dominate.
Yeah.
But we aren't the ones pulling the strings there. Look at the basketball teams. We aren't the ones really pulling the strings. And in fact, look at all the different things that we have. So at some point, when do we say, how can we say we're really living free? How can we say that the world is getting better? How can we say we're living in a post-racial society where everywhere you look, it's not that we're denied it, it's not that we can't even get access, but it's been set up to deliberately keep us out. And to be able to even prise the door open, you say me, there's plenty of people out here in these streets. We are spending our time trying to convince white people that racism is a thing. How, if that is not the definition of power, privilege, and control, because we can't even rely on the very systems that are meant to promote fairness and equity. Because they're not made for us. And this is why I come so hard, because people don't understand this. This is why I come so hard when people want to talk to me about the importance of diversity and inclusion and belonging. And I'm like, no, talk to me about systemic racism. Talk to me about your systems. Talk to me about understand how all of this is woven together. And if you're not talking to me about that, then don't talk to me.
That's it.
But, you know, clearly, you know, and then listen, don't get me wrong, they get it. They get it. So I'm not even saying like, no, they understand. There's not enough people that understand that. Yeah.
See, this goes back to wanting to be, and use the analogy of obviously, you know, the house slave, you know, in the sense that you migrated from the plantation, you got to the house. I'm all right. It's comfortable here. I'm good.
Don't you worry, everybody else. Listen, I've got heating, central heating's working, I've got food. I'll let you know when you're opening, I'll give you a call, yeah? Exactly
that. So the problem that we have is that we're still trying to be a part of this system rather than creating our own systems, our own economic foundation. And this is now where I've just come across Bitcoin and all this stuff, and now it's blown my mind, because this is the most revolutionary threat to this system and the financial systems in place. Which
so why do you think they're trying to knock down blockchain left, right, and centre, Sayce? Why do you think that is?
Madness. You know, I've been in my own world. I've just been like, wow. And I'm like, this now is a way for us to get forward. Like, I was having a conversation yesterday where I said, you know what? Because I've got my son's 14, and he's not sure where he wants to go in life. Obviously, with COVID, it's a struggle. You know, he wants to play professional football. He's a very good player. I'm like, you got to have education. You got to have something. You need to have investments before you're 60, your own investments. So he's got his clothing label, and that's cool. That's going all right. But he needs to find that passion. I just spoke to him about Bitcoin yesterday, just briefly, like, you know, Cam, I've got a bit of money. Let's put some money into Bitcoin. You know how much research this guy has done in the space of a day? So basically, and then we get this and this Coinbase wallet. Because what stimulates young black men, young black girls, is money, because we live in a captive society. So then I'm talking to someone now, and I'm saying, you know what? Why don't I create a little Bitcoin community for young people? Learn about Bitcoin, start trading crypto, and this is create another generation of wealth, because this is what happened with the the internet age, where people got rich. What you're talking, but Sayce, what you're actually, the root of what you're talking about is information. Yes, of course. Because that's what you're talking about. That's just about information. That's about us taking ownership of what's already out there. And thinking about how we can put it into the hands of our young people. So you got an enterprising 14-year-old. I've got a very enterprising 12-year-old. So already she's lit down 3 e-commerce websites, because she's moving on. And then she's coming to me like, Mom, I'm just researching on YouTube how apparently you can make money off this some platform where you create this, and this. And she's spending all day. So I said to her, look, you need to go and do some little Google marketing certificate thing. And she's 12. And she's like, okay, all right. Because that's how her brain was, and she's coming to show me this, and all I'm saying is I'm not buying no more domain names. I got 25. I don't need no more. That's when you know you're an entrepreneur, because you got all these business ideas. Buy the domain name. I'm buying the domain name. I got it.
Do you know what I mean? I got 123 Reg going, Shireen, do you really need all these domain names? I went, maybe. I might do. You know, so I said, I'm not buying no more domain names. No, you're not having my PayPal account, and I ain't setting up another Shopify shop. So just fine. We've done the whole lip gloss thing. We've done the whatever. We do, you know, let's move on.
Yeah, but you're right. It is information, right?
Information, and I don't wrong that.
But this is where we don't have the conversations. That this is like going back to Mentivity and the work that we do around, you know, informal education, which is a facet of youth work, which is driven by conversation. So we're pushing conversation-based learning because our young people, and some of our young people, I should say, learn in different ways. Just everybody learns visually. Someone might learn by doing, but we've now got to educate in a different way. Educate to rehabilitate, essentially. That's what we're doing. Because all we're doing with white supremacy, all we're doing is fighting the fires that have been set. They're like, okay, got this one is under control. Right, we've got knife
one over here.
Oh my gosh, you're balancing, and you're because you don't have the means to say, I'm not going to deal with that right now. We've got the finances and the foundation, the economic foundation, and also the emotional, psychological foundation to deal with this issue and focus. Because we know what we need, but we haven't got enough people jumping on board with people that are saying, you know what, Mentivity, United Borders, Amani, Proud and Gifted, I see what you guys are doing. Let's get a conglomerate of these organizations and big people and businesses and saying, right, we've got an umbrella. I'm good at this. You're good at this, because we're always in competition with each other. This kind of
yes.
But it's changing. I will say in
this. I agree.
Because I'm like, you know what? I'm all about partnership. All my work is around partnership and giving back to the community. I will give you, going back to, you know, before money, you exchange services.
Barter.
Yeah, pretty much that. So I'm saying, I know, I trust you, I respect you, I'm going to help you with this. Who's going to help us? It's going to help that young person. I've got more mentors in the community. I've got someone else doing something positive in the community.
But Sayce, I go back to, for us to be able to do that at scale, we have to be okay with prioritizing people who look like us, because if you're not okay with that, you can't do that, because you're always worried about how it's going to look.
Yeah.
You're always, you know, so you'll do a little bit, but not enough to kind of get to the, you know, it's like the, you know, the groundswell, right? It's never going to be enough. And this is what goes back to our conversation before this, was the rehabilitation. And I'm thinking about the things that I have to continually work at. And I do that through reading. So I read a lot of, you know, writers from the 60s, you know, even before Guyanese writers. There's an Algerian guy I'm reading about, you know, all of these things, because what's really sad is I'm reading all of these books, and you're probably the same thing, right? And I'm looking around and I'm thinking, but shit ain't changed. How can they be writing and talking about this? Because we actually believe we're the brand new generation, right? Do you know what I mean? Because, you know, I'm a couple of years older than you, only 2 years, a couple of years. So we're the same, you know, we're the same age. Yeah. So we like to believe we have fought the hardest. We are fighting the hardest to dismantle racism, not recognizing that our forefathers, you know, kings and queens have gone before us.
Yeah.
And the conversations is exactly, I'm reading one book about Black Power, and let me tell you this, the conversation is exactly the same. Exactly.
That's why I get into these wormholes on YouTube, because there's so much great content out there. You know, where I'm just like, okay, who's this person? All right, I knew about this person, I didn't know about this person. And it's the same conversations that we're having. But now, as I said, you go back to Marcus Garvey, you go back to Claude Anderson, you know, Paranomics, all these things have been set out. The templates are there. You go to Marcus Garvey, templates are there.
They're there. They're there. Look at, I always said to somebody, I didn't really get time, unfortunately, to talk into this, but I don't know if anybody remembers it a couple of months ago. You know when Ice Cube got vilified for the contract with Black America, right?
Yeah.
When you look at the contract of Black America, do you know what I would like us to do? This is like going for when stuff like this happens, as you said, we've got all these templates. Let's critically evaluate the templates for implementation purposes.
Yeah.
That's what I would like to see. You know, I'm looking at myself now, so maybe you can start to see me do like Saturday morning sessions. Right, Sayce, what we bring to the table today that we need to talk about. But to your point, we don't always have to do stuff from brand new. You don't always have to start up your own something. You can go and see somebody else is doing something. Go, let me lend you my expertise.
Yeah, it's unreal. It's unreal. This is the thing, is that like you said, no idea is original, right? No idea is original, but we've got people that have really broken down and explained to us what the system is and what white supremacy is, and how we overcome it and how we get to our liberation. This is why so many of our prophets have been killed and taken out of this world, because they're speaking the truth. So if they're brave enough to speak the truth, why should we not be brave enough? Because they had enough love for us as a people and themselves to speak out against injustice, knowing what was going to happen to them. Who are we then to not then conform to that? And that's where I've always been outspoken. I've always been a rebel in society. You know, I get that from, you know, potentially my mum. My mum is not a rebel in that sense, but my mum will always challenge certain things and the revolutionary spirit. And for so many years, I suppressed that. I suppressed talking about certain things because I thought that people are going to think I'm crazy.
Yes. And we don't want to be that, but we don't want to be that black person, because we spend all our time trying not to be the black stereotype, right? And we don't want to be the seen as militant and this, not realizing that that is what the system is set up to do, is to make sure that we don't do that. And anybody, because I think Dave, was that you who was asking about books and whatever? Listen, I got enough. I'm just like, you know, literally my partner's going, is there a book that you're not reading that doesn't have the word black in it? I was like, listen, babe, I've got to work on here. But if anyone has read Sun Tzu's The Art of War, right, if you read it years ago, reread it. I'll tell you why you reread it, because you can see a lot of the tactics, because all the business leaders have been reading it, because that's like 101. Yep. You know, not even MBA 101. You can see a lot of the things and you go, oh my goodness. Divide and conquer. All of that, all tactics. And there's even documentaries that talk about where you have look at, what's that documentary, 13? Is it 13? Is it 13? I don't know. Well, you know what that one.
Yeah.
And then you have all of the politicians talking about the decisions that they made. So they're saying it in broad daylight for everybody to see. And that's still not enough, Sayce, for us to recognise that things have to, you know, and this is a bit about conditioning, because even in plain sight, and that's when they know, they're like, we can talk about this.
Yeah.
And it's not really going to make any difference, because this is like the best kept not secret. But it's not made any difference, because that is how much that we've got the system on lock.
Yeah.
You know, and I know, because I've got a reference before, because I'm going to come to you for another Sound Clash tune. But I do want to acknowledge the fact that the beautiful thing when I do these lives is I do have people tuning in from all over the world. And I also have a lot of white people that sit here and listen. And I know some white people thinking, oh my God, is this what they talk about in the community centres? You know, what? Do you know what I mean? I never listened to this conversation. But what I do hope, and this is why open access, and I get criticised as much as I get applauded for doing it, because some people say to me I should be doing this behind closed doors, because then people are going to come for me. But then my argument is, if we keep doing it behind closed doors, we can only pull in people we can see and touch.
Yeah.
We got to expand the reach. But also, if you're a ally for whatever reason, whatever the colour of your skin, and you're thinking, but I don't really understand this issue, when you start to hear this conversation, you start to understand what is behind the media label of woke. What is behind when, you know, colleagues like this are feeling in the workplace? What is behind young people? What is behind? This is the bit that if we don't talk about it, you know, and my thing is, you can lean in and listen all you want, as long as you don't get in my way.
Yeah.
When you get in my way, it's a problem. That's it. Oh, Shireen, you're so aggressive in that. Yes, I am.
You gotta be, because these aggressions you're encountering them every day. You know, we can't be so meek, like you said, and turning the other cheek. We can't do that anymore. Like what we're doing and what we're trying to do, we're trying to dismantle certain systems and processes from within.
Yeah.
And people don't understand how difficult that is and how hard it is to navigate that at certain times.
Yeah.
Because you are towing the line with being authentic, but also being professional and making enough change that you're making people feel uncomfortable. I have no problem in making people feel uncomfortable within police or within society, saying what the truth is. Because if I'm telling you what the truth is, and this is a fact, and this is a historical fact, and this is what has happened, why are you getting upset?
Yeah.
Because
and you've got to challenge that.
Exactly, because you're not actually being honest with yourself. You're not honest with the world and what's happened. And I can't deal with you. I'm not going to sit there and waste time with you. I only deal with people who are ready on that journey, you know, of life for themselves or progression. You know, I haven't got the time, especially adults. Children, I've got time. But there always gets to a point with a child where you say, you know what, there's nothing I can do to help you because you don't want to help yourself.
No, and you're not ready because you want to prioritize everything else, which is fine. Because I always say that, you know, because I know of my journey of how long it took me to get here. I don't care how long it took you to get here as long as you're here.
Yeah.
So when you're here and you're ready, then me and you can deal. But if you're still kind of half, because I recognize what being tentative and when you're not fully committed looks like. That's why I look. And so, you know, if somebody's saying to me, connect with this person, if I can't see in 5 minutes what's going on, like that's not a connection. That's not going to happen. So when somebody tells me, listen, I'm sending the same message to you that I'm sending to Sayce, you two can't talk. I said, all right then. Do you know what I said? I said, all right then, you know, because it's going to take that level of commitment, and it manifests itself in lots of different ways. And that's the beautiful thing that I also say to people is when you've made a conscious decision, and actually this is not just about this is about anything in life. When you've made a conscious decision and you're consistent with how you show up, what happens is you attract other people that are serious about what they do. Because otherwise me and you won't be talking. If I was still where I was say you wouldn't give me the time of day.
Vice versa. So, you know.
Do you know what I'm saying to you? So that's how it is. But Rufe and I talked about this. Game recognizes game. So when you're coming on a level, you end up elevating, and you know, because I'm all about vibrational energy, and the energy that you put out is anybody else who is oscillating on this same level. They will come and find you.
Yes.
But if you haven't got to that thing, you're missing all of that. So do you know what I mean? So that applies across the board. It's not just about this, and I recognize that because I see the difference on the other side of that. Yeah,
and that's the rehabilitation aspect of it again, is that we need to discover ourselves. We need to discover our identity, our spiritual connection with the world. You go back to when we were happy, we were in Africa, we had everything we needed and wanted.
Imagine if we're not fighting racism, Sayce. Do you imagine we'd be back building the pyramids a second time round.
Exactly. And they can't build them again. So, you know what I mean? We have to rehabilitate in so many different ways. You spoke about vibrations, you spoke about spirituality. Now I'm realizing where I am and who I am as a person. I'm in tune with my emotional. The emotional regulation that I didn't have was because of certain experiences in my childhood and my teens, in my adulthood, which I didn't overcome. So now I've overcome that trauma in essence, and those things that the world has actually brought to my table, and I just kept it on my table for years.
Right.
And I was underneath the table trying to lift it. I just couldn't, because I wasn't ready. I wasn't in the mindset, because I'm trying, like you said, I'm trying to be someone else out there. But when I get home, I'm still lying to myself to some degree. Even though I'm someone that challenges people on a regular basis, everyone will tell you, I've always challenged things. I don't agree with something, you're going to know about it.
Right, same.
But the difference now that I have is that the emotional regulation that I have and the emotional understanding, and this goes back to therapy. Like, I've been in therapy for the last 14, 15 months. It's been the greatest thing ever. I tried it when I was younger, when I experienced certain things, when I nearly lost my life, and I had PTSD, and it didn't work because I went to a white lady, and I thought I would to go there because she's a professional. I've now got a black lady as a therapist, and it's been the most amazing journey ever, because I've been held accountable. Again, here's that word, but also I've manifested things and said, this is what I've got to do. And I've been committed to rehabilitating myself and actually changing the cycles of behavior, the cycles of actions that I've had since my early 20s. And only now I've got this spiritual foundation where I'm like, you know what? I feel good within myself. I'm doing my yoga, I'm doing my meditation in the morning, I've got my routines. I don't fly off the handle anymore because I have emotional regulation.
Yes.
We need to teach this within our young people from an early age, as well as telling them who they are and why they should embrace who they are and why they're so special. And this is where we've got to go back to the education, the rehabilitation, because that is now, you know, we've just secured our facility. We've got a facility in Southwark for 5 years. We've secured that. Now we're going to have a community hub where we can now get young people in from a young age, get the community, get the elderly. We've got garden space. We have to take charge, because no one's going to help us unless we're doing things ourselves. I give this analogy all the time with the car. Your car breaks down. Some people sitting, they'll call the AA, they call RAC, they'll wait there to be rescued.
That's me, because I ain't getting out of the car.
So you got some people who will get out the car and will be, you know, asking people, flagging people down, like, help me, help me, help me. People keep driving past. It's not only till you actually start pushing your own vehicle that someone will stop their car purposefully and get out and be like, you need some help. I'm going to help you. Because if people don't see you doing for yourself, they're not going to help you.
Sayce, right. Let me play a track. So I'm going to come back to, oh my goodness, let me play a track. Let me play a track. I don't even know how long we've been going for. I don't care. I don't care. Right, let me see. Hold on.
Man.
Survival story. You get a story.
You know?
This is my story. We'll get a story.
Big tune, big tune, big tune.
I remember those days when hell was my home, when me and mama bed was a big piece of home. And me never like paid and my ear never come. When mama gonna work me the street around. I remember when Danny them let me snow cold and make him little bread and kick up their road. I remember when we visit them with pure big stone and the boy Danny pop out so we went for a crown. I remember when we run, but I get him not blown. And my best friend Richie doing I'm down. I remember Sunday Avenue turning a war zone and Mikey man a fly out cause she get alone. Mikey got to foreign and got on Al Capone. Make one little money and send me no home. Now we all the city and that is well known. Mr. Mikey call me on the phone. Mr. Mikey, we got the kingdom. Them out of love now. Mr. 7 and the one of them are broke now. We are only to check it out with no broke now.
Rah, rah, rah. Them other kingdoms, so them have to wait for it.
But we are taking to them wicked and lately. And now the whole community are I remember about 80 Jamaica explode when a Trinity and Tony you let them a run road. That a long before lane them a
tough one. I was gonna take it there. I was gonna take it into that generation, that time, but I'm gonna keep it here. Because we gotta do the work.
Listen, we gotta do the work. Everybody must work. Work. Work.
Everybody must work. Young and old, work harder. Everybody must work. Work. White or black. Everybody must
White or black.
Work hard. What's it? Cause if you're not working, you gotta be loafing. And if you're not loafing, then you gotta be joking. You must work. I'm alive and don't be a jerk. Everybody must work. Work hard. It's like lazy body don't work. And I don't wanna be a kind of a work. Lazy body don't work.
Sayce, when we come up next, I just want you to talk about this Met Police because I know you keep alluding. Yeah. Everyone's like, why is Sayce just dropping in? Because this is big. This is big time. This is big time. Next level conversation now. So let's context. Why have you mentioned a few times the Met Police? Let me just get my cushion because I'm proper sitting in, settling into this story now.
Long story short, I'm training the Met Police around stop and search, culture, equity, conscious bias, not unconscious, because it's all conscious based on their worldview and the construct and the narrative that's been created by the mass media around us and governments. But I was stopped during lockdown last year, delivering food to people that lost family members to COVID and friends that needed support. And I got stopped on the Walworth Road. Prior to that, I saw a police van stopping two boys, one white, one black, together. Looked a bit intimidating. I pulled over, ran down my window, got tints. I had an A3 at the time, and I was like, "You guys all right?" Just checking that they're okay. They're like, "Yeah, we're all right." All the police turned around, looked at me. I went on my journey, went to stop at the shop because I fast for Ramadan every year. I'm not Muslim, but I fast for Ramadan every year. I respect that aspect, and it's a very spiritual kind of, re-energizing way to go back on track. So got some dates. I was going to break my fast, onto my next drop off, got into my car, 30 seconds, about 45 seconds. I see blue lights. I'm like, oh, pull over, let them go past. Pull
No,
alongside.
they're coming for you. Yeah.
Can you get out of the car, please? You look suspicious. You look like a drug dealer. What were you doing on the side road? I'm like, guys, seriously, I've got food in the back. I'm delivering. I've got to break my fast. I'm doing a lot of stuff for the community. Like, I run an organization. They dismiss everything I said. No, you look like a drug dealer. Look at your car. I mean, you just look very, very suspicious. I'm like, what? Just go into the shop?
It's that thing, isn't it? You look very suspicious.
Yes, because it's that narrative that's been created, which works on white people as well, because they believe us to be something, but we also believe ourselves to be that.
Yes,
so
yes.
I just got to the point where, I've been stopped and searched over 30 times since the age of 14. I've been assaulted by police about 3 times. The first time I was assaulted, I was 14, going home from school in my school uniform, beat up by a police officer, taken to court, saying that I tried to beat him up, and then it was thrown out.
At 14.
Yeah, I was scared, like literally shit scared. In front of the judge in my Kingsdale school, uniform, like West Dulwich, I was just there, and I thought I was going to prison as a 14. It was so traumatic, and all because I was just going home from school, and I challenged the police officer in the right way, in an elegant manner, and said, "Look, why are you stopping me? I haven't done anything wrong. If I've done something wrong, then I'll have a conversation and tell me what I've got to do." But on that day, that anger and of that injustice of not getting that kind of that justice with the police, I had CCTV footage, we had eyewitness accounts, and it was still thrown out. The CPS said it wasn't enough evidence. So for 30 years, I had this, 23 years, I had this underlying anger towards police. Every time I got stopped, straight up here. Yeah, emotional regulation.
Yeah.
This time I started going there, then I said, nope, I'm bringing it down. They're kids. I'm 37. You're talking to me like you have got experience.
Me and your size. Me and you were not size.
Me and your size, exactly. Yeah, where he was actually taller than me, a bit more muscles, but he wasn't taller than me.
Yeah, me and you were not size. Yeah.
So it got to the point where I just said, you know what? I'm going to educate you guys. Instagram Live, filmed it. Said, you know what's going to happen? I'm going to get the Met Police to pay me to train you guys. I'm going to get you guys in a room and I'm going to train you guys how to deal with the Black British community and young people especially. And 6 weeks later, I made it happen. Launched it at New Scotland Yard. I never thought I'd be invited into New Scotland Yard, but I was in New Scotland Yard running the police training around stop and search, sharing my experiences with the police, but also saying, you know what? I'm no longer fearful of you guys. I know what needs to be done. I know I need to, mobilize my community by educating them around this so that they understand the law, understand their rights. Also, I'm going to let you guys know where you've gone wrong, and I'm going to be a consultant and train you guys and get you guys to express why you see us in this way, why you treat us in this way, so I can understand it and I can feed that back to the community, which is so important. And we have to meet in the middle. We have to meet in the middle, because when something happens negatively, someone dies or someone gets hurt, who do you call?
Yeah.
Police. So you're going to call them at some point. So you can't then not use a service based on the lack of your relationship. So we've got to build that. Unfortunately, a lot of people won't agree. But what we've done...
Listen, Sayce, I would not do the work that I do if I did not agree with that. And this is the whole thing as well, actually, because this is where everyone thinks that this thing is so like binary. So it goes back to this ridiculous meme, you can be pro-black and not anti-white and all of that stuff. You can still be pushing for black liberation. You can still prioritize your people. You can still say that. I say every day, yes, Stream, we know you're on a black vibe. We know you're on a black vibe. You can still do that. But that does not mean that I don't recognize that part of what I can do, because I like doing it, because I think I'm good at it, because I can make a difference. Back to your point about working with people who have already decided they want to be part of the solution, they just don't know how. Right? Which is different to leaders, organizations who feel begrudged about doing something and they need you to convince them why. Two different things. I haven't got time for the second. Nope. Focus on the first, right? So that's where and I'm not even going to say blurring of the lines, because there is no line to be blurred. But that's how come I can stand in my truth every single day, Sayce, and know I've got no shame in having a public conversation with you, talking about. I know like people are wanting all the books. I know I'm coming with the book. I'll come with the books, as God knows. There are a list of lots, but you know, we can have this conversation and get into the depths of this conversation.
Yeah.
But there is nothing about what we've said.
Yeah.
That is anti-white people. What we are is anti-white supremacy. What we are is anti this idea.
Yeah.
To your point, white is right.
Mm-hmm.
We are anti having to conform to a white gaze.
Yeah.
And we are anti having white being the normal standard in which everything else is compared to and everything else is less than. They are very different things. And I think that's you have to talk about it more, to your point about what you do with the police officers, because that's what you have to try and get, because their instinctiveness is like, oh, well, they must be coming for us white people. Therefore, we got to button down the hatches.
Yeah.
We've got to make sure they don't get the job, but we give them enough. And to be fair, that mentality is what you see when, you know, you've got leadership teams parading Black people as a sign of progress, parading Black people to say this is how we are as racism, and hoping nobody questions it. Because what they're doing when they do that is going, let's just throw them a bone in the hope that they're distracted with the bone and we can carry on doing what we've always done. Yeah,
yeah. But we're immune to that tokenism now, because we know we've got the Sean Baileys of this world. We've got these people out there that don't care. That tokenism doesn't work anymore. Listen, I call them out.
And you can put another Black person in front of me to come and tell me X, Y, and Z. No.
Yeah, so it doesn't work, because they need to be verified and validated by that very same community and respected. So I've just seen 2 comments here about.
Oh yeah, go show me.
I know. Remember the piece. What was the feeling of the room when I started training?
Oh yeah. Let me show.
The feeling of the room. It was anxiety, because I didn't know where I was going to go. It was the first one. It was a pilot, but I knew the way that I approached it. It was at the right angle, where I was going to have an open, honest conversation, and the pressure didn't come from the officers themselves, who were new recruits. It was more that they had their superiors around them. They wanted to speak a lot to me. A lot of them grew up in the very same community. Some of them didn't. And what was funny was just, you've got to challenge things in an elegant way.
Yeah.
Yes, you can go in there and be like, all right, cool, yeah. But I challenge things in an elegant way. And that's something that we get from youth. We're elegantly challenging people's mindsets. So I asked them in the room, I says, where does your perception of Black people come from? Well, you know, movies and stuff. I said, what is your experience of the Black community? Have you ever, apart from carnival, what have you done in the community?
Please say that one more time. Say carnival, ain't it?
Carnival, yeah. Just us at our best and our worst at the same time.
That's what I didn't even say it, but you said it.
So it's like, right.
And then even when like, oh no, shaming the Black race. No, stop it. No, I'm not.
No, do you know what I mean? But it was like, how many of you had jerk chicken? One hand went up. See, you don't even know what jerk chicken is, but you're going to come into our communities and try and police us. Or you've got no cultural background, cultural understanding, no experience. So this comes back to my word of 2021 is accountability.
Yes.
We hold them to account. We go on ride-alongs with them now. So I'm actually, as a consultant, a stop and search consultant, where I'm looking at you, right?
Watching.
Good. Young man, how did you feel? Well, it was aggressive, bro. Okay, cool. You hear what he said? Did you need to go to enforcement before engagement? No, you didn't. So this is where we now, the police service is not forceful. We've got to hold them to account to not be that way. Because we're going on ride-alongs and we've got a rota in the community where people in the community saying, you know what, Friday night, I'm going to go out on a ride-along. Saturday night, I'm going to go out on a ride-along with the police. I'm going to assess them. Because that pressure is going to make them police better, because we have put the pressure on, because they serve us. They are public servants. Right? Their oath is to uphold the peace and justice, but also their allegiance is to the Queen, not the government. Yeah, so we have to hold them to account, and that's why I'm really pushing this, because some people are going to be like, "Oh, it doesn't work." Well, right, fine. Your fixed mindset later. I'm not involved with you. You can continue to do what you've got to do. I'm working.
I'll go back to everyone knows Shereen's favorite saying: "What are you doing?"
Exactly.
So if you're going to tell me this is not work, I'm here, I'm ready, I'm listening, I'm like, give me something. But if you've got nothing, then in the nicest way possible, you've got to sit down, because this goes back to my point about be apathetic and, you know, and have different views. Providing you're not in my way, I don't have a problem. But when you, because that goes back to your point, that's about fear. That's about that, as you said, that fixed mindset to say, well, there's nothing that we're going to do that's going to make a difference. But if we all had that, and I have had that, so I'm not, as I said, I never come from a place of, because my shit's never been on point like that, But if I think about maybe the missed opportunities, this is how I think about it. And I don't live in the past from that point of view, but occasionally when I'm having a little moment, I do think to myself, look at all the interactions that I've had, all the spaces that I have been able to get into, despite the fact I'm the only Black woman and whatever. All those missed opportunities, Sayce, because I was so focused on that, so focused on pleasing the system, pleasing the individuals who are upholding the system, even though, and it's not that I felt played with, but not because that sounds like it's really conscious, it's not. But even them knowing that, oh, she's just one.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So you people will always come for what you do, the way you do. There's going to be some Black people going, I can't believe he's there with the police. And I would say, not just because my sister and brother-in-law are police officers. I'm not just saying that, I say this anyway, but it goes back to, we still have to live in this society, and this is the difference between what is the outcome. Right? The outcome for you with the work that you do, and I'm paraphrasing, but the outcome for the work that you do is the fact that we are treated fairly, even when we fuck up. Right? The outcome is we are treated appropriately when we haven't done anything wrong, but there's a perception we've done something wrong because of the color of our skin. Right? So how can somebody come for you when that's the outcome that you're trying to get to? Right? And that's what I say to, if people want to come to me about the way I'm doing. Well, one is I'm trying to help give other Black people, and by extension, global majority people, a voice and say, if I can do this, you can practice it in your way. But secondly, I'm trying to influence the organizations, because my 2 kids might have a PAYE job. Right? So I've got to try and do my bit to make sure that they're addressing this in the right way with the right depths. Because my kids might not want to go and do the path I've done. So I've got to be sure that I'm playing my part. That's the end goal.
And that is so key, because sometimes people don't understand it until they have children, the importance of doing this work and speaking up. Because once you have children, you've kind of reverted back to being a child to some degree, because you're living through your child in that experience. And this is where that parenting, comes into play, and that positive parenting, because you're saying we sometimes have childhood amnesia. We sometimes forget the experiences we had as children, and we put them, because they might be so traumatic, we just compartmentalize them, we get rid of them. But one thing I haven't forgot was about me being a child. I'm probably one of the biggest kids around. I love to have fun. Smile. That's how I am. It keeps me young, it keeps me young. I work with young people. So the key thing now is really tapping into those experiences and saying, you know what, I'm going to listen to my child. I'm going to see how they see the world. And I'm not going to bring my prejudged agenda, my adult agenda, to what they want to do. We need to consult our young people so that they can start to make decisions from an early age. And making decisions from an early age, that whole trial and error, just like play, it reinforces learning. So they get to the point where they're right, I'm at 17, I'm an informed individual, I'm going to make these decisions, I'm an adult before I'm actually legally an adult.
Yes.
This is where our cultural immaturity comes into play, because we're releasing our young people into a world that they're not prepared for.
Yes.
And that's why we have the adverse reactions, and then we get the anger, because you're saying your children that are looking at you, and children in society, like, you guys were my role models. You let me down. I'm angry at you, because that's the person I'm supposed to love you. You're supposed to guide me. I'm angry at you. Then you have that anger trying to navigate life and do certain things. And because you're financially immature too, you're going to end up yo-yoing in between, coming in and out of the house. That's what we see. What happens, because Black women especially will release their daughters way before their sons, because they know what that does to Black men. And they're people of that, and they know they haven't prepared their sons for that. This is the key things that are preparing our young people, and actually working in collaboration, not having that old school Caribbean mentality, like, I'm a big person, don't come and
listen to me. Right.
No, we got to treat them, because other people, other cultures are having those conversations with their children when they're 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is why they're, doing certain things inside, and they understand the system, because now they can navigate it. That's not what we're doing. And this is why Mentivity and organizations are educating and taking time to mentor and give time to young people. That is the highest service you can do, is give time to young people right now and speak up.
Yes, and speak up and support each other. Listen, Sayce, we've been going for 1 hour and 34 minutes, but technically the first 4 minutes don't count because we were, I think it was just me and you. We're too busy vocally. So listen, we're going to do one more sound clash.
All right.
Then I'm going to close properly because it's Saturday morning, so I can just vibe out. Like, I'd still be here at 12 o'clock. People are like, hold on, I thought Sheree started at 10. You know, it's like, yeah. It's Saturday morning. So we on Black people time now. We can take our time. We can take our time. I don't even know what I'm having for lunch. Somebody who said that Saturday soup. No, I don't even know what I think my daughter's going to cook today. So I don't even know what's going on. So we're meant to be going for a run together. I don't know whether that's going to happen, but I'm going to do my best. Oh, right, so come on, give me a tune, and then I'm gonna like pretend I'm enjoying the song, but secretly think about what I'm playing next.
Yeah, I'm just gonna play it. I'm gonna bring it a bit back. He's Southeast London. Love this song, one of my favorite songs. So
go do it.
We'll be closer together, you know.
Yeah, gotta do it. I swear to God, I need to put a couple of his tunes in, but I thought it was going to get close. But again, anyway, so we can say to this because I didn't so.
We've got to do this again. I've had fun, you know.
We've got to do it again. We got to. We'll find out from the people if they want us to come back and do this again. We've got to.
All right.
I can talk to you all day, just me and you, on a live.
Just music. We're just doing music clash.
Yeah, completely.
Attraction is where I'm at. There's no escaping me. I just wanna be you are the thing you want me to. I just wanna be
Brooklyn's finest.
the way I when I'm lying in the midnight.
Gotta finish off with some love, you know.
Oh, I got one tune for you. I'm gonna kill it. I'm secretly confident with my tune.
All right, I'll let you go, James. I don't want to hear anybody saying they're yamming jerk rice today.
No, I mean biggest insult.
Jerk rice, you know. What is that?
That's the thing.
Man, it's crazy.
Don't.
All
right, so I'm gonna play this tune. I'm gonna play this tune because I feel like in our hearts, this is what we should be saying to ourselves. If I can find it, okay. It's a tune.
I know it's a tune. You've got nothing but tunes. Oh.
Hello, Mama Africa. How are you? I'm feeling fine, and I hope you're fine too. Hello, Mama Africa. How are you? I hope that you hear me words. Your grace turned blue.
You're reggae today. That's it.
Say words to let you know how much I care, and I won't let go. Even though we're oceans away, you're with me day by day. Memories of you keep flashing through my mind. Every thought of you makes my time.
What is this, Amory?
Mama Africa, how are you? I'm feeling fine, and I hope you're. Hello,
Amory.
Africa, how are you? I hope when you hear these words, your grace turn blue.
Love it.
Don't you worry now.
Oh,
Won't be long.
that is a tune.
Big tune. Garnet Silk. All
That's
right.
a big tune.
Yeah,
That's
man.
a big tune.
Very big tune.
Well, Sayce, our time has come to an end this Saturday morning.
Could have stayed on all day.
I know. Mad, isn't it? It's mad.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to everyone for tuning in. Really, really appreciate it. Like, thank you so much. I just appreciate you and the support that I'm getting from the community. We're gonna get through. You know, we're going to. No other choice. No other choice.
We're going to. And I think, you know, as we said, you only get bonus points when you're bringing people with you, right? That's the only. We've got to be in credit, so we've got to be counting out those coins and seeing how many, you know. So I just super appreciate the work that you're doing. Super appreciate you, your vibe, your energy, and I think there is so much that you're doing, but that you can do. So I hope I've unleashed more people, you know, when they tune in later on and go, what is going on LinkedIn today? Yet again, bloody Shreen out here. What is she doing this time? She there with their black friends again.
all that racket.
Like, is this appropriate? Yes, we are still here. So yeah, I just, you know, I appreciate you. And Dean, thank you for the link up. I don't even know if he's watching this. Dean probably finished a long time. He's like, listen, these two people go for ages. I'll later. Yeah, I'm done. But thank you. And we're going to do this again.
Thank you. I appreciate you. And, you know, just being connected with you, the energy, the vibe. Love it. So, you know, I'm here for you. Whatever you need, I'm here. Thank you so much.
Likewise, Sayce, likewise. But I know this is not going to be the end. So this is the start. We'll be like, do you remember when we started this thing? It's be like, right.
We now have this company.
There we go. So everyone, thank you so much for those of you that have stayed with this marathon live. But you know, it's Saturday morning, so I hope you've enjoyed our little sound clash that we did. And I will see. I'm doing various lives next week, so I will see you when I'll be back. Monday, I'm doing one with the States and Total Jobs group. I'm just thinking, and I've got my webinar. I must remember. I'm just going to flash this up so people can see. I'll flash it up for a little bit. So I'm doing this webinar on Thursday at 6 p.m. GMT time, open to Black women, global majority sisters. And then if I've got space, I'll let some brothers in as well. And I think we've got about 150. Honestly, I said I was going to do this, right? And I thought I'd get like 40 people. And I literally got 70 people within 24 hours. So I had to buy an extended license. I had to buy an extended Zoom license because I couldn't get people in. So we're now at about 150 people, which is great. And to be honest, the purpose of that, just to, you know, for everybody who's thinking, oh God, what's she going to be doing? This is my next level brand of real talk. Because when people are asking me questions, I don't have the time to engage one-to-one. Yeah. But again, talking about some of the things that we've talked about, it's about how we can get ourselves in the mentality of seizing opportunities that are here, that are going to come, rather than looking for closure from organizations, from individuals that we're never going to get. We're never going to get the apology from the white person to say, I'm sorry, I wronged you. I'm sorry. So let's not put our energy into that, but let's start getting our heads in the right space to go, if this is on the table, I've got to be ready to take it. Yeah. You know, so that's going to be the hour and 10 minutes with music, of course. Because, you know,
love it.
Yeah, of course.
It's the topic of life.
Yeah. Topic of life. All right. So thank you so much. Yeah. I'm going to end the broadcast before we actually get kicked off. So yeah, thank you so much, Sayce.
Thank you.